This is Math 2, 11.1 notes. That's Math 2, Unit 11, Lesson 1. The title of the notes today is Complete the Square. We're going to be completing the square, and we're first going to talk about perfect square trinomials. What the heck are perfect square trinomials? Why are they important? And how are we going to use those to help us complete the square? Okay. A perfect square trinomial is a trinomial. Remember, polynomials with three terms are called trinomials, and we're still dealing with the quadratics, the x squared ones. X squared plus 8x plus 16. That's an example of a perfect square trinomial. The reason is, when you go to factor it, we know it's going to be plus plus because it's positive, and that's a plus, so we know it's going to be plus plus. And what times what is 16? That adds up to 8. That is 4 and 4. 4x and 4x gives you the 8x. 4 times 4 is 16, which means I can write it as a quantity squared. That's what makes it a perfect square trinomial. The fact that you can factor it, and these two factors are exactly the same, so we write it as quantity squared. Okay, not all trinomials are perfect squares. For example, if that had been x plus 4 and x minus 4, or x plus 4 and x plus 3, those would not be perfect square trinomials. Okay, x squared minus 6x plus 9 is another example of one, because when you factor, you get x and x. Again, the last sign is positive, which means my two signs are the same, and the neighbor tells me they are both negative. What times what is 9? That adds up to negative 6. That would be minus 3 and minus 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. If you do your inside-outside, negative 3x would be the negative 6x, which means we can write it as quantity squared, which makes it a perfect squared trinomial. Okay. What makes, or how do you find perfect square trinomials? For example, if you had one like this, x squared plus 10x plus blank. Now, really quick side note, this last number here is always going to be plus blank because these two signs have to be the same. A negative times a negative is a positive times a positive is a positive, so that sign will always be plus. Okay, what goes in the blank so that when you factor it, it comes out to be the same? Well, we know it's going to be plus plus, and we want these two numbers to add up to be 10. And then we want them to be the same, so they would have to be 5 and 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So 25 is the number that goes in that blank. How do we know that? Because 5 times 5 is 25, 5 plus 5 is 10, so the quantity of x plus 5 squared. Okay, what about this next one? X squared minus 14x plus 49, plus blank. Now, try it on your own. We know it's going to be x and x. We know that's always going to be plus, so they have to be the same. The neighbor tells me they are both negative. What times what? I don't know what this number is, but I know I want it to add up to negative 14, and I want these two numbers to be the same. Minus 7 gives me the negative 14, and negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49, which equals x minus 7 quantity squared. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to have you try this one on your own. X squared minus 4x plus blank. Put pause, try it on your own, hit play, and see if we get the same answer. Okay, I know I want to factor it, and I know this sign's always going to be plus. You can see in all of them they're plus. Why? Because I want my two signs to be the same. The neighbor tells me they are both negative, x minus, x minus. You take the negative 4, and I want these two numbers to add up to the negative 4, so it'd have to be negative 2, and negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, so it's x minus 2 quantity squared. Okay, so how am I getting these blanks here is the question, because they will ask you to do it. Now, the easiest way to think of it is, what have we been doing? We took the 10, cut it in half to get the 5s, and then did 5 times 5 is 25. Took the negative 14, cut it in half to get the two negative 7s, and then negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. took the negative 4, cut it in half to get these two numbers here, and then multiply them to themselves. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Okay, so what do we do? X squared plus bx plus blank. Now, how do we find this blank? Here is the question. What you're going to do is take the middle number, cut it in half, and square it. Take a look at the first one we did, 8. I gave it to you at this time, but 8 cut in half is 4. 4 squared is 16. Negative 6. Negative 6 cut in half is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. And we use the negative 3's there. 10 cut in half is 5, and 5 squared is 25. Negative 14 cut in half is negative 7, and negative 7 squared is 49. Negative 4 cut in half is negative 2, and negative 2 squared is 4. So we take the middle number and we cut it in half. B cut in half is b over 2, and then you square it. B over 2 squared. Now typically these numbers are going to be even. Every now and then you will get an odd, so you're not going to have it as a fraction for the most part. And this would be plus and plus x plus b over 2 quantity squared. All right, let's try some examples that look like what you're going to see in class. We're going to find the value of c. Now remember, c is always the blank. Ax squared plus bx plus c. I'll write that up here. Ax squared plus bx plus c. C's the blank, the number that we're always looking for when we're completing the square. Okay, find the value of c that completes the square then factor. Number 1, x squared plus 6x plus blank. Okay, so remember, what did we do? We take the middle number, which is the b value. We take the middle number, cut it in half, and square it. Okay, what does that give me? 6 cut in half is 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, what did I do? I took 6, cut in half, and squared it. 6 cut in half is 3. 3 squared is 9. This is my first answer. Then factor, double bubble, x plus and x plus. 6 cut in half was 3, so 3 and 3 times 3 is 9. 3x and 3x gives me the 6x. So it's x plus 3 quantity squared. That's my second answer. Number 2, x squared minus 12x plus blank. Okay, so remember what you do. You take the number here and you cut it in half. You get negative 12 cut in half, and then you square it and put it right there. Negative 12 cut in half is negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. That's your first answer. And then factor. And this number here is when you cut this in half. Negative 12 cut in half was negative 6. And indeed, negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Negative 6x and negative 6x gives you the negative 12x. X minus 6 quantity squared. All right. I am going to move on and try some different examples. We are going to write in vertex form and find the vertex. Write in vertex form and find the vertex. Okay, number 3. Y equals x squared plus 8x minus 5. Y equals x squared plus 8x minus 5. Okay, here is what you do. You're going to move this number over because half of 8 squared is not negative 5. So we're going to add it over to the other side because right now it's kind of just in the way. Gone. So y plus 5 are not like terms, so y plus 5 is the best I can do. X squared plus 8x, and this is where I put the blank there. Remember how we did the blanks on the other side? But what I add to one side, I must add to the other because I now have an equal sign. On the previous page, I was just looking for C in factoring, and there was no equal sign. Now that there's an equal sign, I have to keep it balanced. What I add to one side, I have to add to the other. Okay, take the middle number, cut in half and square it. 8 cut in half is 4. 4 squared is 16. Again, we took 8, cut it in half, and squared it, and got that number there. And what I add to one side, I must add to the other, and now I'm adding 16 on both sides. 5 plus 16 is 21. I double bubble. Remember, half of 8 was 4, and 4 times 4 is 16, and I have y plus 2 equals x plus 4 quantity squared. Now, the whole reason I complete the square is so that I can write it as quantity squared. I'm now going to move the 2 back over because I want to get y by itself, and you'll see y in just a second. Y equals the quantity of x plus 4 squared minus 2, and there you have it in beautiful vertex form, just like we did in our previous unit. Opposite of the inside, outside stays the same. So your vertex is negative 4, negative 2. All right. I am going to have you try number 4 on your own. Y equals x squared minus 18x plus 57. And then we will do number 5 in class. I'm not even going to write it down because that one is a tricky one. We'll do number 5 in class. So 4 you're doing on your own. And I want you to do the best to come up with some steps. Like, how would you explain this to a friend who was absent and they don't know how to do these? What steps would you give them to get these answers here at the bottom? Okay, that is it for this lesson.